Thursday, the 1st of September, and still holding above this trend line, but it's got to get above this little band in here, above 42. Things are really looking ready to explode. It's just hard to figure out when the when is going to be. And what we'll do is we'll take a look at all these different time frames and see what the message of the market is currently telling us, because we've had this resistance test that resulted within a higher low, but since it's made this higher low, it has still been in this triangle formation. Thus, if it's either going to make a lower low or a higher high, it cannot make both, at least on the first attempt. Moving on towards the 6-hour or quarter-day chart, what I was stating yesterday was what would be ideal is this level, which was a previous area of resistance, to become that as support. So far over the last day, that has been the case. In fact, yesterday, this number hit exactly pretty much on the nose, and, well, it's holding up currently within this band. And this band is a 5-day moving average band. And within this situation, we have this move where it goes below it. Now, is it going to reverse the trend in here? Well, no, it didn't. At least not as of yet. But oftentimes, from failed moves can create fast moves. Therefore, is this blending and creating that of a failed move, which would thus result in a future fast move? Well, it's definitely possible. But the big thing is, when you break away from this band, a lot of times you can get some nice size moves because that's where it's breaking away within the indecision. Moving on towards the 3-day chart, where each candle represents that of 3 days, and this is the second of 3 days today, but over the last 5 days, it's a whole bunch of nothing within the trend that is going on. And the trend I've been pointing out was after the short-term crash, it managed to find resistance at this 18-period average of front-weighted closes, while occasionally, or for the most part, breaking below the lows. Since this move in here, it has been finding support at the closes, as well as occasionally, or for the most part, breaking above the highs. Therefore, that's what's going to make this 42 level so huge, because a confirmation break above 42 and a quarter tells us that the entire selling that occurred in here is a failure, and oftentimes from failed moves can create fast moves in the opposite direction. The opposite of lower happens to be higher. Within the weekly chart, it's really showing a pattern as if it wants to break away. But as I was saying, within the daily chart, try to figure out how long or how short this is going to be. And that's tough to ask. I've had people ask me, well, how long do you think it's going to take for anything in particular to happen? And for the most part, when you look at these charts or these formations or movements, it's very difficult to understand how long it's going to take us to this 50 period, or to this 58, or that 100. And within the weekly chart, how many candles will it take to get to 50? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Well, right now it is Thursday, and this is the weekly candle itself. It is a very small little dot, but it's holding above this major band, and that is very important right now. Within the monthly chart, well, a new month is just beginning, but it's holding up very well above the 18-period average of highs in a nice uptrend. Within the quarterly time frame, well above this upper band, a strength of 93% from the lows of 355 and the highs of 49.81. But what's interesting is we've already seen just a little bit of a correction within this mark here, though we don't need to find support at previous resistance here at $18. Maybe some might think it's nice, and I think there's many who would not think that to be a nice little thing, especially when using the half-year time frame, because The big liftoff occurred back in here from this 18 period average band. And once again, you can see a little bit of that correction in here and that it's breaking through the upside. But we're having another test of this 50 level in here. And the more often that resistance is tested, the more likely it is that it is taken out. And on a fundamental level, the simple mere fact that it is still below it, I know I've said this about 50 or 60 times, but it's important. The fact that you're below the level shows how suppressed this really was. And with the natural law, it has to find a medium, and at some point, it figured out the time frames, like I say, a very difficult thing to do. Let's now segue into the gold to silver ratio. And this is the chart going back to that of 1968. I think what's important is this significant level here, roughly at where we are right now. And that is because it was an area that was support that turned into resistance that may be now turning into a level of support. It could pierce all the way up to maybe even 50 and still be within the general area within it. Now, I've been doing some trend line analysis, and I can't remember exactly where the trend lines were, but I should be able to. Yeah, this is exactly it. A trend line that connects these support levels. And now if we find the level, what's the best area for resistance amongst this? And you can take the original one, although it was really only hit perfectly down here. But regardless, we'll do it anyway. Now what I'd like to do is calculate the exact same distance from point A to point B, and that can help me determine where the markets will go on a breakout or breakdown. Well, the last time we had a breakout, this would have been the line, and we can see clearly here that it came very close. And I guess depending on how you draw it in, it can very easily touch it, depending on where the top and bottom lines happen to play out. In fact, I think when I did this yesterday, it turned out much better. Regardless of the fact, though, is that a resistance hit within here most certainly gives us reason for changing of the guards, because the gold to silver ratio had a bullish level in here. It went consolidation through time, and it looks as if the consolidation is breaking down. And the big level, of course, will be the historic ratio of 16-1. Thank you for tuning in, and have yourself a great day. Bye-bye.